Thank you so much for coming. It's good to see people. Wish everybody in advance a Chanukiah Sameach. Of course, tonight begins Chanukiah. It's quite late in the year. And I wanted to give a shiur today, which was very Chanukiah focused. It's good that we get back to a bit of halacha. We haven't been so halachically focused, but there'll be halacha and hashkafa, but it's largely halacha. It hasn't escaped my notice that there are other religions in the world which are celebrating festivals around about now. And that's something we might talk a little bit about next week. So next week will still be Chanukiah, Baruch Hashem. It'll be towards the end of Chanukiah, but we will have some other opportunities to investigate those connections and relationships. Today, I want to speak about something which is a big part of a lot of people's lives in Chutz La'aretz, which is that there are these giant menorahs. I'd actually just like to ask you to turn off your phones as well, please. There are these giant menorahs, which are Chanukiot, I should say, not menorahs, which are erected all over the world, in Times Square. They have in the White House, not such a big one, but they have a Chanukiah lighting ceremony. I assume they're doing it this year as well. And in Trafalgar Square in London, they put a big Chanukiah up. They actually just put it up and took it down again this year, apparently due to high winds. I don't know if they are meteorological winds or political winds, but nevertheless, there's something else going on. But the origins of this minhag are very interesting. And the origins, as everyone here probably knows, are with Chabad. Starting in 1974 in Philadelphia, actually, Chabad decided to have a Chanukiah underneath the Liberty Bell, and that spread. I remember as a child, Chabad in Leeds, my hometown, used to have one of these enormous Chanukiah in front of the town hall, and they used to have one of these cherry pickers that went up, and there used to be kids in the community that were given the opportunity, and I remember once or twice being hoisted up 30, 40 feet in the air to light this Chanukiah. Which I enjoyed a lot. The question is, can you have a child do that? We'll talk about that in a minute. I want to talk a little bit about how this works, what's it based on, and how it connects with the minhag that we all know, which is to light the Chanukiah in shul, which is an unusual minhag, and even more unusual that we make a bracha on that. And not everybody does, even in shul, and whether we should be making a bracha on the Chanukiah in town, and also public gatherings. It's become very common now. Someone has a chasna on Chanukiah, so they have a Chanukiah lighting at the chasna, and someone stands, they make a bracha, they light the Chanukiah. Is that right? I mean, no one lives there. It's nobody's house. Why are they doing it? Is it okay to do, etc.? Let's have a look at some of these origins, and it will help us to understand some important halachas of Chanukiah as we come into the Chanukiah festival. So let's start with number one. The Gemara quite famously defines the mitzvah of Chanukiah as being anchored in the home. And this is very important. Number one, Tana Rabbanan. Mitzvat Chanukiah ner ish ubeita. That the mitzvah of Chanukiah is that each head of the house, each pater familias, each person who runs the home, has one candle lit in the home for the household. So there should be one candle in the household for the whole household together. Then it says, umahadrin, if you want to beautify the mitzvah. Mahadrin doesn't mean strict, that's machmir. Mahadrin means beautiful. If you want to beautify the mitzvah, which is why this word mahadrin has now been used as a marketing word. Everything is mahadrin, and mahadrim, and a mahadrin, and it's like the word glat. You know, glat is used now for anything that you want to sell as being higher quality. One of my students was from Woodmere. I don't know if anyone here is from the Five Towns, Cedarhurst or Woodmere, but they have a shop called Gourmet Glat there. So one of the students said, I was researching what the word glat is based on in Yiddish, but which Yiddish word is the word gourmet? You know, they thought maybe it's related to dinner de gourmet, like in Mominus, but I thought it was a very sweet question. Okay, fine. So one candle. So mahadrin, if you want to be mahadrin, beautify the mitzvah, and everybody in the house gets one candle on every night, and they each light one candle. The mahadrin, mina mahadrin, if you want to beautify it more than ever, so then there's a machloket. Famously, Beit Shammai omrim yom rishon madlik shmoneh. So the first day you light 8 candles, umikan ve'elech pochet v'cholech, and you go down each day. Ubet Hillel omrim yom rishon madlik achat. The first day you light 1, umikan ve'elech mosif ve'elech. Fine. There is, of course, a debate as to this last stage of Mahadrin, Mina Mahadrin, is that every single person in the house, just like they got one candle each on the second level, they now get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 candles each? Or do we go back to the first, which is there's just one for the house, but now instead of being one candle, it's 8 candles? And of course, that's the difference between the Sephardim minhag and the Ashkenazim minhag. The Sephardim light one Chanukiah for the household, and the Ashkenazim light one for each person. There are various different minhagim within those communities. Fine. But the key thing here is it's anchored in the house. Look in number 2 in the Rambam. Kama neirot hu madlik b'Chanukah. How many lights do you have to light on Chanukah? Mitzvata sheyeh kol bayit ubayit madlik ner echad. Each house, it's not even the person, he says, the bayit has to light the candle. Bein shehayu anshe abayit merubim, whether there are many people living in this house. Bein sheloi hayabo ela adar echad. If there's only one person in the house, it doesn't matter. The house has one candle. Umahade is a mitzvah. So madlik nero kaminian anshe abayit. And if you want to go mahadrin, he repeats the Gemara that you have one candle each. This focus on the house is very important because the house is the center of the Jewish family, the Jewish morality, the home. The idea of the Greeks as being ufartsu chomot migdalai, that my castle, if you like, my home, they breached the home. The secularizing nature of the Greeks was one of the things that we fought against. And therefore, for the Jewish people, as always, morality is very, very clearly anchored in the home. So it's not a surprise that the mitzvah of Chanukah is focused on the home. A person who is homeless, God forbid, doesn't have a mitzvah of Chanukah. What if they're staying in someone else's home? Of course they do, but that's we're not really getting into this today. So Chanukah is clearly related to the house. So why am I lighting in shul? Why am I lighting in the middle of Trafalgar Square or Times Square? No, it's not a bayit. The whole point is the bayit. Number 3, because there's another idea. Says the Gemara in Shabbos, number 3, Tan Rabbanon ner Chanukah mitzvah lahanicha al petach beito mibechutz. Because even though it's anchored in the home, it has to be, says the Gemara, at the front of the entrance of the home, facing out. And Rashi explains what I think we all know, Mishum Pirsume Nisa. There is a Pirsum Hanes. There is a publication, publicization of the miracle. The Loiber Shusarabim, you can't put it in the middle of the public square because that's not the bayit. It has to be in the bayit. Ela b'chatzero, you put it in the front yard. You put it somewhere just past the front door, so it's connected to the house, but it's also facing the streets. Because they had yards, the house opened into a yard, a shared space, and that's where you put the candle. And therefore, Prisumi Nisa is very, very important. Look in number 4. If you have a choice, the Gemara says quite famously, between you only have enough money either to buy Chanukah candles or to buy wine for Kiddush. Ner Chanukah Hadif, so Chanukah candles take precedence. You can make Kiddush on something else, make Kiddush on the challah. Okay? Ner Chanukah takes precedence, Mishum Pirsumi Nisa, because this idea of publicizing the next. So the shir today is about how we balance those two imperatives. How we balance the need for the bayit, which is the anchor in the home, and how we balance the need for Pirsumi Nisa. So let's use as our test case lighting in shul. So lighting in shul, interestingly, is not mentioned anywhere in the Gemara. And the question is why? Why? They had shuls. Why did they not light in the shuls? In fact, they even called the shul a mikdash ma'at. That's in Yechezkel already. So you would have thought, well, just when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, so then they'd, instead of lighting the Beis HaMikdash, they'd light in the shul. But they didn't. And that's one of the questions we're going to need to solve over the next few minutes. Why was this not raised in the Gemara as an option? We'll see in a few minutes. Look at number 5. Umadlikin umavarchin, says the Shulchan Aruch, you have to light candles and you make a bracha, the Beit Knesset, in the shul, mishum pirsumei nisa. And says the Ramah, "Ve'ein adam yoytze b'neira shel beis haknesses," but no one actually fulfills any mitzvah of Chanukah with those candles of the Beit Knesset. V'tzarech la'asor lahadlik bebeso, and you have to light when you go home. Even the person who lights in the shul and makes the bracha has to go home and light again. So the question is, well, what's the point? What did we just light in shul for if nobody does that mitzvah? So let's have a look now. Let's look at the Bet Yosef behind this halacha, see what he says, see how it works. Number 6. So as you know, the Bet Yosef is Rav Yosef Karo. His long kind of analysis of what he paskened in brief in number 5. Says number 6, and we're going to have to identify up to 6 different reasons for lighting in shul. Okay, it's not always as clear when you just see this piece, but there are 6 different reasons brought down, and we have to work out which of those reasons are going to justify us lighting in the street, in Times Square. Let's have a look. He says, now, let's look at this minhag to light in the shul. Nira, it seems to me, says the Bet Yosef in the 1500s, shetiknu kain mipnei ha'orchim. The reason for this originally, he says, was because there were guests, there were people lodging in the shul, she'ein lehem bayit lahad likbo, and they don't have a private house. Kumo shetiknu kiddush bebeit HaKnesset. Just like they said you have to make kiddush in the Beit HaKnesset, mishum orchin da'achlu v'shasu bebeit knishta. V'chein kosav HaKolbo, and he quotes the Kolbo, which is a sort of medieval collection of different halachot. So what is he comparing this to? He's comparing it to Kiddush on Friday night. If anybody remembers back to Chutz La'aretz days or has visited recently and refreshed their memory, it's pretty consistently the case, certainly in Ashkenazi shuls. I'm not sure what Sephardi shuls do on Friday night. I have a feeling they do not make Kiddush, but Ashkenazi shuls on Friday night all make Kiddush. In shul, and the question is why? Why do they make Kiddush in shul? If you remember, they make Kiddush and they give it to a kid to drink, if there's a kid there to drink it. Why do they make Kiddush? Nobody's Yotze without Kiddush. You have to have Kiddush b'mokum suda. You can't have Kiddush and then just eat it down the road in another place. So the Bet Yosef here is saying, well, it's a similar idea. There were people who were living in the shul, lodging in the shul. The shul was like an inn of some kind. People who didn't have anywhere to go could go and sleep in the shul. So they're also eating in the shul, and they're drinking in the shul, and they're sleeping in the shul. So the Kiddush is for them, which is why the Bet Yosef says that nowadays when there's nobody sleeping or eating or staying in the shul or drinking in the shul, so you don't make Kiddush on Friday night. And in fact, the Bet Yosef is very, very clearly against the minhag of making Kiddush on Friday night, which is why they don't do it in Israel anywhere. That's the minhag of the Bet Yosef. They don't make Kiddush in shul on Friday night. I think it's a shame. I like Kiddush in shul on Friday night. It's a bit more singing, and the kids get some fun to drink. But he says, no, we don't do it today because we don't have people sleeping and eating in the shul. Yeah, but we don't have people sleeping and eating in Hanukkah either. So why did the Bet Yosef, as we'll see soon, says that you can't make Kiddush and Shul on Friday night, but you still do light the Chanukiah if the reason is for the Orchim? There must be other reasons, not just for the guests. So that's his first suggestion. Maybe it's because of the people who used to sleep in the Shul. That is effectively their home. Okay, fine. Another reason. The Kasav Odtam, in second line towards the end, he gives another reason here. Tamacher, a different reason. Shehu Kidei Lefarseim Hanes. This is a great opportunity to publicize the miracle. In front of everybody. Everybody comes to shul and you can publicize the miracle. Since Pirsumi Nisa is one of the platforms of lighting candles, maybe that's the reason, even if it's not technically speaking a home. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. And he says, Ulesade habrachas lifnehem. And to set out the brachas before them. Is this the third reason? Or is this part of Pirsumi Nisa? Meaning, he said it's helpful that you teach people how to make the brachas. You show them, this is how we light the Hanukkah candles. That's part of the reason that we're doing that in shul. Well, if that's the reason we're doing it in shul, why do we need to do it more than the first night? After the first night, everyone's got it, right? Unless you say there are people who come to shul on second night or third night that didn't know what to do beforehand. That's a bit of a stretch, okay? So we're laying out the brachas. Sheyesh b'zeh pirsum gadol. And there, it seems to be, this is in shul, a very big public place, pirsum gadol. There's a lot going on there. Fine. La Hashem Yitbarach. It's a big Kiddush Hashem. The Kiddush Shemai, and it's a Kiddush of Kiddush Hashem. If you make the bracha there in public, it sounds like making the bracha is part of the Pirsumi Nisa, which is very interesting because we're going to be asking on the brachas. In fact, look at how he worded it in number 5. He didn't say Madlikim bebeit Knesset mishum Pirsumi Nisa and you make a bracha. He said Madlikin umevarachin. You light and you make a bracha in the shul because of Pirsum Nisa. It sounds like making the bracha is part of the Pirsum Hanes, which is interesting. People take a mitzvah much more seriously when you say a bracha. You know, even though it's got nothing technically to do with the mitzvah. You tell people that they missed the night counting Sfersa Omer. Oh, it's okay, you can count now, but you just can't make a bracha. Nah, nobody wants to count when they're making a bracha. What are you talking about? It's a completely different thing. The counting is the mitzvah and the bracha is a bracha. No, it doesn't feel like a mitzvah if I don't make a bracha. People feel the need to make a bracha. Ad kedei kach with Sfersa Omer, that some of the poskim say that if you think that the person is not going to continue counting, if you tell them not to make a bracha, Maybe you should tell them the yes to make a bracha so that they'll continue counting, because it could be a mitzvah min HaTorah, for certainly for a man to count. I'm not getting into women and counting now, right? Fine. So that's another reason. V'zeh lashon harivash. And now he quotes the Rivash, Rav Yaakov ben Sheshes, in the 15th century before him. B'tshuva in a tshuva. Haminag hazeh lahadlik bebet HaKnesset. Minag v'tikun hu. It's a tikkun. It's a tikkun. What's it a tikkun? What are we putting right? Mishum pirsumei nisa, and it's because so that we can publicize the miracle. Keivan she'ein anu yichorin lekayim mitzvahs tikuna lahadlik kol echa bepetach beito bibechutz. Since we're not, even in Spain, maybe especially in Spain, he says we can't light outside anymore in the Chatzer because of anti-Semitism. He's living in the 14th century. There's a lot of anti-Semitism in Spain. The riots of 1391 was the 100-year lead up to 1492. We can't do that anymore because there's so much anti-Semitism. The Spanish authorities won't let us. So it could be that the menorah migrated, the Chanukiah migrated from outside the home into the shul. And the reason we started lighting in the shul is simply because we couldn't light in the home. Now, if that's the case, why should we be lighting in the shul in Israel? Because everybody lights in the home, outside. There's no reason why you can't light the Chanukiah outside. In England, when I was growing up, we never lit the Chanukiah outside, okay? One of my friends moved in, and he said, well, I want to put my Chanukiah in the window. And I said to him, I don't think that's a good idea. Put the Chanukiah on the dining room table where I grew up. The Chanukiah was on the dining room table, and everybody, lit there. He said, no, I'm going to put it in the window. So on the first night of Hanukkah, he had in his window a Chanukiah and a big brick that was thrown through his window, okay? So that's the minhag. That's the minhag. You get a Chanukiah, you get a brick, okay? So I think after that, he put it in. So he said, look, we can't do it in our home, so we do it in the shul. Yes, sir.
But the light in shul wasn't like in your home, on the table.
Oh, yeah, so you're saying the other way around. I've done the Pirsumei Mitzvah. Yeah, correct. That's what he's saying. We light in shul now to feel that we did it like publicly because we can't do it publicly how I meant to do. So here you've had a number of reasons. You had at least 4 reasons there. Number 1, it could be because of the guests. But we don't have any guests. Okay. Number 2, it could be Pirsumei Nisa. Number 3, it could be to teach people the brachot. Number 4, it could be because we couldn't light in shul. It couldn't light outside the home, rather. Now, number 7, we see another reason. Number 7 says this is a Sefer Amanhig, an even older source from the 12th century in southern France. There is no chiyuv to light in the shul, only in a house that people live in. Because don't we say you have to have the mezuzah on the right? That's very interesting. We used to sing mezuzahs on the doors in a shul, but a shul doesn't need a mezuzah. Why does it need a mezuzah? Nobody lives there. It's not a shar, and it's not a bayit. It's not a mezuzot beitecha or b'sharecha. It's a public building. Nobody lives there. It's not the gate to the town, so you don't need a mezuzah. But we put mezuzahs there now, so we can light a Chanukiah. But he said you don't really need one. There has to be someone living there. The Gabbai lives there. Maybe the Gabbai lives on top of the shul. So then the shul is his home. But why do we light in shul? By the way, there's a big shaila. Can the Gabbai live on top of the shul? There's a halach. You're not meant to live on top of the shul. And the Taz, there's a famous case in the Taz where he lived in a shul and then the place burnt down. And he said, it's because I lived on top of the shul. I shouldn't have done that. There's another shir not for now. So he thinks it's nothing to do with any of the reasons we've said, but it's because the Nes was in the Mikdash, in the Beit Olamim, in the eternal Mikdash. So we do in our little Mikdash, the Gola in the exile. The Far Nes HaNes Lefi Shekulam Mitkapsim Sham. Okay, so now we have a 5th reason, which is that the Bet Knesset is like the Bet Mikdash, and therefore we light in the Bet Knesset. But as I said before, so why did it take until the Middle Ages to work that one out? They should have been lighting in the Bet Knesset at the time of Chazal. They also had no big Mikdash in the time of Chazal, but they never did it. So all of these, for something for sure, whenever there are 5 or 6 reasons for something, there is no clear reason for it. Because otherwise they just give a reason, and not 5 or 6 reasons. So each of these reasons makes sense, but has a problem with it. So it's a bit of a kvetch already to light in the shul. Okay, light in the shul. What harm does it do? But what about making a bracha in the shul? You're going to make a bracha in the shul? So, okay, now the stakes are high. Because once you start making brachas for no good reason, then you're in a risk of doing something seriously wrong because, making a bracha levatala is a serious issue. For the Sfardim, this is one of the 10 commandments. They hold it's a mitzvah midoraita, not to say a bracha in the wrong situation. Okay, so the Ashkenazim are going to be a little bit more lenient on this because they hold that a bracha levatala is not a Torah prohibition. At the end of the day, if I walk in the room and feel so overwhelmed with excitement, I just say, I just got to make a bracha. I'm not eating anything or drinking anything. And I say with Shem Hashem, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, she'akol niyeh bidvorah. I mean, that's a beautiful sentiment. So the Ashkenazim will say, okay, you shouldn't have made that. It's a rabbinic prohibition, but you can't say it's a bracha levatala. You didn't take God's name in vain. You just said a very nice thing about God. The Sephardim say, no, it's a bracha levatala. So what are we going to say? And of course, the Bet Yosef is Sephardi. So why on earth is he allowing a bracha to be said on lighting in shul? Now we're going to have to investigate how that works. So let's have a look at some of these sources here. And this is going to help us understand what the Chabad custom is and how that works. By the way, that's one of the reasons why they were so against making Kiddush on Shul on Friday night. Because it's a bracha levatala. It's you say Mekadesh Shabbat, and nobody's Yotzeh, and nobody did anything, and how are you making that? And the Ashkenazim say, don't mess with our minhagim. We make Kiddush and Shul, we make a bracha, it's now part of the service, etc. And that's why the Ashkenazis stuck with it. But let's have a look at some of the issues about making a bracha in Shul. So let's start with the Shibbolei Haleket, which is in the 13th century, collected ideas from the time. Look at number 8. V'gam anu noagim lahadlik bebet knesset. He says, okay, we also light in shul on Chanukah. The lo yadanu shoresh v'anaf l'minag b'zeh. Here, just say what I just said. But we don't really know why. We really don't know exactly where this comes from. Umari Rabbi Yehuda achi, and he's my brother, Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, and he says nun reish vav. I had to look that up. I didn't know that Rashi Teves, which is natre rachmana upirke. May God protect him and redeem him. I don't know whether exactly his brother was in a difficult situation. I don't know whether he was a hostage or something. I didn't look into it. But he says, my brother had an idea. He wouldn't let them light in shul. He said, no lighting in shul around here. Why? Shalot levarech aleha. Because he was worried that people are going to make a bracha. Better you shouldn't light than you should light in shul make a bracha. Because the bracha is a bracha levatala. And I think that's what we should do. Just stop lighting. Just stop the minhag. Because it just leads to problems, because people are making all these brachas for nothing. That's what I think we should do. Look, everybody's lighting at home. Why do you need to light in the shul? Okay, fine, if there are people sleeping there, okay, so they need to light. Because a guest being hosted in someone's home, he lights his own Chanukiah. But if there are no guests there, what's the point? Just stop it. Now, as far as I'm aware, there aren't people today in today's world that have said, stop, a campaign, stop shul Hanukkah lightings. But there are people who light without a bracha. Rav Moshe Sternbuch says you can light in shul, but you can't light with a bracha. And because there was a concern, you see, that this was already the Shibbolei Haleket, says it's a problem. Number 9, says the Bet Yosef. But we actually do make a bracha, even though he's Sephardi. Like people make a bracha for Hallel on Rosh Chodesh. There's all sorts of interesting halachas brought in here. Why do we say Hallel on Rosh Chodesh? Minhag. Really, the Gemara says to make Hallel, to say Hallel on Chag, on Sukkot, on Pesach, on Shavuos, and on Chanukah. There's a mitzvah to Rabbanon to say Hallel on Chanukah. 8 days, like Sukkot, it's modeled on Sukkot. But Rosh Chodesh is a minhag, and he says, but we make a bracha on Rosh Chodesh, even though it's only a minhag, and usually we don't make a bracha on a minhag. The Rambam is very strong not to make a bracha on a minhag. The prime example being Arava. We take an Arava on the last day of Sukkot, of Hoshana Rabbah, and we smash the Arava and we wave the Arava, but we don't make a bracha. How can you say V'tzivanu on a minhag? It's hard enough to say V'tzivanu on a rabbinic mitzvah. And of course, the test case for this, as we said last week, is Hanukkah candles. The Gemara asks in Shabbos, how can we say Ashek Shanu Mitzvah V'tzivanu lahadlik neshel Shabbat or lahadlik neshel Chanukah? God didn't command us to light Shabbos candles. God didn't command us. So what's the answer of the Gemara? The rabbis commanded us, and God commanded us to listen to the rabbis. And in fact, the Yerushalmi suggests that the bracha on every single mitzvah the Rabbanon is the same bracha. They don't have individualized brachas. The bracha on every mitzvah that we do, which is Rabbanon, whether it's taking Trumas Maestros today, whether it's lighting Shabbos candles, whether it's lighting Hanukkah candles, Biur Chometz, it's the same bracha, which is Asher Kiddishanu Mitzvah V'Tzivanu, something like, I don't know exactly, Lishmo Al Chachamim. We make one bracha on every mitzvah Rabbanon we do, because that's what we're doing, which is interesting. We don't do that, obviously. Nobody does that today. But on a minhag, you're going to say V'Tzivanu on a minhag? Where's the tzivui? You know, where you could say, well, God told us that like a tzivui is like a neder. It's very shvach. And therefore he says, we even though it's a minhag here, though, on Rosh Chodesh, for some reason we do make a bracha. Even though nobody's yotze with the Hanukkah lighting. So he says, look, I think it's like Rosh Chodesh. That's why we make a bracha. There's just one big problem. Because the Beit Yosef in Shulchan Aruch says, you don't make a bracha on Rosh Chodesh in Hallel. Which is like confusing us even more. Look in number 10. Says, what do we do on Hallel? The current Hallel b'diluk, we read what we call now half Hallel. Ben Yachid ben Sibur, whether you're davening at home, whether you're davening in shul. There's one minhag, he said, which is that the tzibur says a bracha on that. But if you're davening at home, you don't make a bracha on Hallel Rosh Chodesh. Some say that nobody should ever make a bracha on Hallel and Rosh Chodesh. Not the beginning and not the end. And that's the minhag in Eretz Yisrael. And by the time he writes this, he's living in Eretz Yisrael. And then the Ramah says, no. And there are minhag in Ashkenaz is that everybody makes a bracha on Rosh Chodesh. But he brings down here that the Sfaradim don't make a bracha. If you've been to a shul, Sephardi shuls, many of them, not all of them, many of them on Rosh Chodesh, they just start Hallel. They don't make a bracha at all. On Yom Ha'atzmaut, it might be different. Maybe they do make a bracha on Yom Ha'atzmaut. That's part of the whole discussion there. Even on Rosh Chodesh, they don't make a bracha on Yom Ha'atzmaut. They make a bracha, etc. So what are we going to say? Why is Chanukah different? Why is Chanukah, even the Sfaradim are going to make a bracha on the mitzvah? Because maybe it's Pirsumi Nisa. Maybe that's part of it, as we said before. The bracha is part of the Pirsumi Nisa. And maybe it's compared to something else. Number 11, just look here, and then we'll get into the Chanukahs in the middle of town. Look at number 11. Madlikin says the Vilna Gaon. Raya mihalel milele Pesach. He says, here's a proof. What about Hallel on the night of Pesach? In shul. Hallel in shul. Some of you here, I'm sure, will say Hallel in shul. In Israel, it's a completely standard minhag. It used to really irritate me when I first made Aliyah because I just feel we used to start the Seder even later than we needed to. And from Chutz La'aretz, I don't know about you, but in Ashkenazi shuls, they do not say Hallel in shul on Leil Pesach. But you know, I've become more Israeli over the years, and now we say Hallel. Do you say Hallel with a bracha? Yes, they say Hallel with a bracha. Absolutely, Hallel with a bracha in shul on Leil Seder. Therefore, why is Chanukah any different? Shenitkan al hakais, even though later on we have Hallel in the Seder on a kais. Va'omrim, okay, but basic knesset b'shum pisumei nisa. So that's why do you say Hallel in shul on Pesach Seder night? Pisumei nisa, which is very interesting. I don't know if everyone realizes that the nes of Yetzias Mitzrayim. So it seems that Pisumei nisa has its own quality. Had a question? No, everyone does not say Hallel in shul on Leil Pesach. Ashkenazim do not say Hallel in shul. When I was in shul, when we used to get to the end of davening, there used to be like 3 Nusach Sfard guys that used to wait till everybody had left and then schlep a little minion in. And do you remember that? In there, I remember that. It was Kornbluth always used to do it. I remember it. So anyway, the point here is right. And so that's what's going on. Okay, so let's now take this from the shul into the public arena. Let's take this from the shul into the public arena and see what happens. Lighting in other public places. Have a look in number 4, page 4, I should say, and have a look at source number 12. So most poskim have actually ruled that you do not make a bracha. That you do not make a bracha on lighting outside in the street. And I brought you here some of the classics. Some of the key poskim from the late 20th century. I brought here Yitzchak Weiss, Rav Eliezer Waldenberg, Rav Vosner. Let's just see the reasons they give. Rav Moshe Sternbuch we'll see in a minute about lighting and making a bracha and a Chanukiah in town. Are you going to do it or you're not? They say no, you can't do it. Number 12. Let's have a look. Let's start with the Minchas Yitzchak. Now that's very interesting. The Noar. Who's at the public gathering? The young people. Why is that important? That might be important because the young people might not come to shul. But he's not interesting. For him, the young people actually makes it more of a problem, not less of a problem. We'll see. The Kikar Ha'ir in the town, these were all shuvas in the 80s and the 90s, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, in the town square. B'Chanukah mishum pirsuminisa. It says, Hine kama dachaku rabboseinu limtzotam al brocha zo b'beit knesset. How difficult that everyone had to fetch and find a reason that we make a bracha even in the shul. It was hard enough to find a reason to make a bracha in the shul. Come over with Shuvas Arivash, and he quotes from the Rash, Shuvas Chacham Tzvi. Eich yale al hadat. How could anyone even imagine lechadesh me'atzmeinu, to make up our own new minhag, mashelo sharu avaseda, that no one ever did before, ubeyose al ikram al shalasifas ke'ela ein ruach chachamim nochei menu, especially when you shouldn't even have all the young people gathered in the square together, all the young men and the young women together, all gathered in the square. You can't do that. It's not appropriate, and you shouldn't be doing the gathering to start with, and you certainly shouldn't be making a bracha on the shul, on the lighting. I'm sorry, someone's trying to call me, trying to deliver something at my daughter's house. That's why I'm getting a bit distracted. I keep turning off the call, and he keeps calling me again and again. I suppose eventually I might just have to answer the phone. I don't want to do it, but otherwise my daughter might not get her passport. But we'll see. Okay, we'll get there. It's not your problem. It's my problem. Okay, fine. Number 13. So Rabbi says, no way. It's hard enough even to make a bracha in shul. How are you going to make a bracha in the middle of the town square? Who would even think such a thing, especially when they shouldn't even be there? Rav Waldenberg, number 13. Can you make a bracha at a party, Chanukah party? You want to light candles at a Chanukah party? Light a Chanukiah, but can you make a bracha? So this is 1981. Very interesting. He says, Borur hadavar. It's absolutely crystal clear. She'ein levarech. You cannot make a bracha. Look how much ink has been spilt just trying to work out why we even make a bracha in shul. And how you could possibly do that in shul even. How many people, how many gedolim were completely makpid, they were very clear not to make a bracha in shul. It's very interesting. I don't think I've ever been to a shul now where they live without a bracha. But he says many people live without a bracha in shul. The Hagam Shel Amase came Mevarachim B'Psak HaShulchan Aruch. Even though most people do make a bracha now, like the Shulchan Aruch says. Al Kain Boror, he says again, it's clear, upashit, and it's obvious. Hadava she'ein b'kochenu lahosif od olahani had lahaglik levarich al hadlakas neres b'misibot. How you can't possibly light at a gathering, at a party. You can't possibly make a bracha. Rather, you can light candles, but you can't make a bracha. The yeshlim noazot. And not only that, but you should go and stop people doing it. You should make a machor. You should say, you can be the one to do that. I'm not going to do that at the wedding. And say, stop this now. No more brachas, okay? V'hamavarech, mavarech bracha levatala. If you make a bracha, it's a bracha levatala. V'hanimna, and if you refrain, yikabel schar ala prisha. Then you get extra reward for having resisted the temptation to make a bracha levatala, okay? The bracha, and he says yes, and Eliezer Waldenberg, he says that's what it was very clear. No, there's no hesitation at all. Look at Rav Vosner in number 14. On the minhag of lighting in the shul itself, the chalba, he quotes the chalba, kasav hatam kidei lahoitzi lemisha einu baki. He says there's a reason that there might be people. Actually, we never saw this reason before. Maybe this is another reason. There might be people who don't know. Maybe that's the reason we gave to teach people the brachas. But he says to be mitzi. You might see somebody who doesn't know how to do it. Now that's a very difficult reason. Meaning somebody might be in shul, they don't know how to light Chanukah candles. Okay, so you're doing it for them. A little bit like Chazaras Hashatz. When you're in shul, why do they repeat the Amidah? Because there are people who don't know how to daven, don't know how to read, don't know how to daven, don't know it Baal Peh. So the Chazan does it for them. They listen to the Chazan and they're motzi. By the way, the Rambam said, of course, in a tshuva, that's why we should be scrapping Chazaras Hashatz today. He says, because as far as I'm concerned, everybody who comes to shul knows how to say Shemona Esrei, so why do we still have Chazaras Hashatz? Now, you could argue that actually a lot of people don't know how to say Shemona Esrei, but even if they do, that didn't win that argument. Much as some shuls, I think, would quite like to do away with Chazaras Hashatz and bring Shacharis down to 20 minutes and not 28 minutes. Nevertheless, I davened once in Queens in the Matzah Minyan, 18 minutes, beginning to end, including Chazar Sashas. Including. Okay? They said to me, I had an early start. They said, it's a chavaya, you've got to go to this minyan. They all and we davened at Nate's. It was like, 5:50 something. It was the middle of the winter. All these guys are watching their watch like this. Before Nate's, sorry, we davened at Misha Yag, the very first minute you can possibly daven. And then 18 minutes start to finish. And then all the guys sit there for 2 hours schmoozing, drinking whiskey afterwards. It's great. It's great. Okay? So he says, you're being motzi people. That's what he says. V'gamki he hidur mitzvah, and it's also hidur mitzvah. It's pirsum hanes v'zeichel hamikdash. He gives all the reasons. Now he says v'hini betam lahoitzi she'enu baki. And if you're going to suggest that you're really being motzi people who don't know how to light Hanukkah candles, chalika rivasham. No, the Rivash immediately rejects that. And he is the chief of the poskim. He says because nobody's motzi, nobody's yotze, nobody lives there. The inkain ikar hatam. The real reason that we light in shul is mashikosav hakolbo mishum hidur mitzvah. It's because of hidur mitzvah. Now we never saw that before. That we never saw. Hidur mitzvah is a new level of mahadrin. Meaning, what's mahadrin? You add candles. So a new thing is you add candles not just at home. You add candles in shul. That's like mahadrin, mina mahadrin, mina mahadrin. He says maybe it's the hidur mitzvah, and also pirsum hanes v'zeichel hamikdash. Okay. Imkain ulai lo nitya said a minag rak bebeit knesset, and he's a little crack open. Maybe they only said that in a shul. The yesh bezeh dimyon lahadlakat menorah b'mikdash, which is like lighting the menorah in the mikdash. The ikke bezeh zeichel hamikdash. The kaven she'ein nidon didan dome legamrei ein bekochenu lahosif. And since lighting in Times Square is not exactly like lighting in the Beis Hamikdash, I would say that Times Square is very, very not like the Beis Hamikdash in all sorts of ways. Okay. Then you might say it's not relevant. I know that there are people who do light with a bracha in the town square. Then he says, I'm not sure that the rabbis really ever agreed to it. He's not 100% sure. Interestingly, Rav Waldenberg was very sure. No way, Jose. Didn't say quite like that, but Rav Waldenberg was very sure. He said, I'm not entirely sure. But I'll tell you who is sure the other way around, which is very interesting, which is the Az Nidbaru. The Az Nidbaru, who Rabbi Binyamin Zilber, who was a very big posek he was on the Moetzis Gedolei HaTorah, he came out very, very strongly and said, absolutely, we should be making a bracha on these downtown lightings. And look at the reasons he gives. So first of all, let's look again at the Kolbo number 15, and we'll see his reasoning. He brings again this reason that it's there for people who are einu baki, who don't know how to do it. That's why we light in shul. The einu zaris, that we didn't see before. What is einu zaris? Can't be bothered. There are people who won't make the effort at home, but they'll come and eat donuts in town, and they'll come and watch the Chabad rabbi, light the candles. He says that's very important. This Eino Zaris, it's not just that they're Eino Boki, they don't know how. It's that this is their only connection with Hanukkah. And he's getting that out of the kolbo. This is a very important point. So now look what the Asbaru says in number 16 and 17. Aval benidon shemadlikim bekikar ha'ir. When it comes to lighting downtown in the square, the ha'ikar hu bishvil hanoar. The whole point is it's all for the youth. It's very interesting. We saw before that the youth was like the problem, all these men and women all gathering together. No, he says the youth, they come down to this downtown lighting. Umistama rabbi mehem, and I guess he says many of these kids lo mishtatfim bebet knesset. They're not going to be in shul. They're not interested in shul. Their parents are in shul, but they're not in shul. Va'afilu imheim bechlal ner ishu beis. So even if you tell me, yeah, but Rabbi, it's not a problem because isn't the basic halacha of Hanukkah one candle per home? For everybody. So even if the kid's not there, the yotze, everybody's covered if their parents are lighting at home. No, he says, first of all, not everybody's lighting at home, even the parents, but he doesn't say that. But he says, also we have to try and be mahadrin. We want everybody to have a Hanukkah lighting experience. By the way, there is another level to this, which I didn't mention, which is that even if you're not making the bracha lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah, there are two other brachas. And it could be that you can for sure make both of those brachas, She'achiyanu on the first night, or whichever night it is if you didn't make it already, and She'asa Nisim, maybe you can make that bracha on the Chanukiah in Shul. Who says you have to make She'asa Nisim on a Chanukiah where someone is technically Yotze the mitzvah? The point is you see the Chanukiah, you didn't light in your home, someone who was traveling, and they go bracha She'asa Nisim. I've done this once or twice when you're traveling I travel for business this time of year. Well, you saw I traveled a few weeks ago. When that's Hanukkah, I don't have a Chanukiah. I'm on a plane or I'm on a, whatever. You can't light a Chanukiah on a plane. Someone bought me one of these little electrical things, which is nice, but it's no one's yotze any mitzvah with them. And so if you see a Chanukiah, you make a bracha, she'asa nisim lavosenu, because you couldn't light that night. So that you could do maybe on the shul lights. But he says, no, I want everybody to have a Hanukkah experience. Very interesting. Because Rav Zilber is not one of the world's great mekilim. He is Ashkenazi. But he says, no, I don't think there's any question you can make a bracha on the Chanukiah downtown. Because everyone has to have that Chanukiah experience. The adif mi beis hakneses. He'll say, I'll tell you something, it's better than in shul. Meaning, if you tell me it's not clear why we do it in shul, this is even better. And he says, because the whole point is we need to do something outside. We haven't thought about this for a while, which is that at the beginning, remember we saw that the Bet Yosef suggests maybe, or the Rivash, maybe the reason we started doing it in shul is because we couldn't do it outside. But really the whole point was to do it outside. So he says, so this is even better than shul, because this is mamash outside. The shul is not outside. And therefore this actually is even better. We should for sure be doing this. Even though other people give other reasons for the Bet Knesset, like it's like the Mikdash or whatever, Ika hatam hu mishum pirsum inisa. The real fundamental reason is to publicize a miracle, shel hatlaka b'chutz. So he focuses on this, and he's not Chabad. It's important to note. He feels independently of the Chabad poskim that this is something that one should do. He's not happy, though, to do it at a party. Yes?
In the 1970s,
yes.
My husband got a Hanukkah on a plane coming to Israel from Australia.
Okay.
And they gave him, it wouldn't happen now, of course not. He had a little Chanukiah.
Yes.
And they gave him a loudspeaker or a microphone.
Okay.
And he made a bracha and he lit the menorah on the plane.
With candles. Yes, I can believe that, because I remember from the 1970s and 80s, they used to have smoking and no smoking on the plane. And the smoking was on the left and no smoking was on the right, or like as if the smoke would not move from one place to the next place. I remember it was a very different world then. Yes, absolutely. That's such an interesting story. He lit it on the loudspeaker. Wow. And the plane was okay, presumably. They were all right with it. Fine. Very interesting. Yes. In shul, yes. As far as okay. So he's saying that the if you make a bracha in shul, and we do make a bracha, even though there's a question mark. He said here it's even better than in shul. It's less of the question marks aren't even there. So if you do it in shul, all the more so that you do it outside. Because
you don't go home and make a bracha. You don't go home and light the candles at home.
you absolutely do go home and light the candles at home. You're not yotze. He agrees. He says he agrees. You're not yotze anything, technically speaking. But in terms of, are we doing a religious service of some kind? He says, absolutely. For all those people who are not lighting at home, who only come to Chabad because, and this is very true today, Chabad, the outreach of Chabad is to people who don't have any other connection with Judaism. And by the way, I've just been touring campuses abroad. I've been away for a few weeks. The Chabad numbers are through the roof since October 7th. Doubled, tripled. And again, they're dealing with people who, this is their first and maybe only contact with Jewish life. Again, the question is how we encourage those people to kind of keep connected and take that and move that up through a more, a firmer connection with Judaism. But nevertheless, their numbers are through the roof. So says Rav Zilber, there's no question that is what we do. But number 17, what about at a wedding? What about other public places? Even though I have written the Yesh Lahadlik B'Makos HaTziburim that you can light in the public square, the Cholzot, nevertheless, lo mil'ani libi. I wouldn't be so like brazen, if you like, to lifsok de b'chol makom. You could just make a bracha anywhere. No, he said I was talking about Times Square for a very specific reason. I'm not talking about your frum wedding. where everybody there lights at home and nobody there is not having a connection. I mean, there could be weddings where there are, but in many situations where everybody there is connected to Torah mitzvahs, what are they achieving there? They all got to light back home. Although it's actually interesting, the Chosan and Kala, where do the Chosan and Kala light? Because they're going to get back home late, so they have to light back home. They can't, just because they lit, in the wedding, they should light back home. The chuppah is a symbolic home. The chuppah is not an actual. They don't go to sleep under the chuppah. And many Rishonim hold that the chuppah is not really. It's the yichud room or the night after the wedding. The chuppah is a very symbolic idea of nisuin. So look what he says. I don't think you should make a bracha anywhere. Second line. I'm very particular. You can only make a bracha in the public, Times Square kind of places. I don't think this has got anything to do with the shul. Don't bring me all this discussion about the shul. It's to do with lighting outside. It's nothing to do with the shul. It's about lighting outside. Lighting in the wedding hall, achieves nothing. You don't live there. It's not outside. Everybody's religious. Like what? Absolutely not, he says. And if you did light inside, you've got to find somewhere outside to try and light. Even if you say that b'diavad you can light on the dining room table, you should really be lighting outside if you possibly can. Now, I brought you Rav Avadia Yosef. I don't think I'm going to read this all in full, but he's surprisingly open to the idea of lighting with a bracha, which if you know Rav Avadia Yosef's psak, you would have thought that was the last thing he was going to say. He won't let people make a bracha unless there's absolute clarity they have to make a bracha. For Rav Avadia Yosef, women, when they're davening shacharit, cannot make a bracha on Birkas Kriya Shema. They say without a bracha. They don't say the bracha of OUisrael. They don't say those brachas. They miss them out because they're not chayav in Kriya Shema. Because it's a mitzvah zashesh and grama. It's a positive time by mitzvah. So he is strict as you can possibly be with brachas. However, there are grounds, he says, to make a bracha. Look in the last paragraph. I'm 5 lines up from the bottom. 4 lines up from the bottom. Ulam, the Sefer Mishnat Yaakov. He brings a Sefer. Rav Avadia had Bekiyut in Sfarim that no one has even heard of the Sfarim. I mean, I haven't heard of the Sefer, but he knew these Sfarim Baal Peh, of Rav Yaakov Rosenthal. Kasav Levarich, he quotes, he says to make a bracha. I don't know if Rav Rosenthal was Sephardi. It doesn't sound like a Sephardi name. I didn't research it, but he sounds like he's Ashkenazi. Kipamim Rabboitz, okay, Hapirsum b'Mesibos Eila. He's talking about parties as well. The publicizing the miracle of these parties, Gadol b'Yoter, can be extremely large. Afilu min Hapirsum shel Bet HaKnesset mehakel Rav, be'akal Rav. Hanoah l'sham, that is even in the Bet Knesset, when you've got all of the people, when you're lighting there for all the people, the Achrei Hodia Hashem Otanu Al Kol Hanal, and after we've been through all of this analysis, he says, B'Yishuv Divrei Marana Shulchan Aruch. You see, at the end of the day, I'll tell you why Rav Avadia feels that you have to make a bracha, even though it's completely against many of the other things. Because for some reason or other, we've been trying to work out the reason, the Bet Yosef says to make a bracha. And at the end of the day, the Bet Yosef is going to be very decisive for Rav Avadia Yosef. He is Maran. He is the Rav. You might think the Rav is Rav Soloveitchik if you're from YU, or Rav Cook if you're from America as a Rav. But for Rav Avadia, he is Maran. He is the Rav. And in fact, Rav Benny Lau, if you're interested, his doctoral thesis, Rav Benny Lau's thesis, was the halachic methodology of Rav Avadia Yosef. He analyzes hundreds of his tshuvot, and he called the book that he wrote of his thesis afterwards, Mimaran ad Maran, from the Bet Yosef to Maran Avadia Yosef, okay? And again, this kind of, this merging together of one Bet Yosef with another Rav Avadia Yosef, the Bet Yosef Hersha, yeah? Why is it called a Bet Yosef Hersha? Because it's this Bet Yosef like Shulchan Aruch, and it's also Rav Avadia Yosef, etc., etc. So at the end of the day, the Shulchan Aruch says to make a bracha. Afilu min apir, second. Div me around 2 lines below, from the bottom, Shulchan Aruch bazeh. Nirsha anogim levarech al adlakas neros Chanukiah b'mesibas ke'ela. The people who make a bracha in those parties, yesh lahem ama sheyismachu. He's not excited about it, but you have on whom to rely, presumably even if you're Sephardi. Because at the end of the day is Bisuminisa. And then he gives you a little eitzah at the end. But you know something? Daven Mariv there. But Sibur. As soon as you've led, and then it's like a little shul. Yeah, if you daven Mariv there, then at least you kind of can push it into a box that maybe it's a shul, and lighting in a shul he's happier with, but the Mariv is part of that. And therefore he doesn't say it's essential, but he said if you can daven Mariv, and I think that's what most people do when they have a wedding and they light Hanukkah candles. I don't know if anyone's going to a wedding over Hanukkah. See what they do. You light Hanukkah candles and then daven Mariv. That's what he's saying you should do. Then it's a little bit more like a shul. They do it in the malls. They do it mamash everywhere. Rav Hershel Shechter has. Do they daven Mariv in the malls? I'm not sure about that. In Passaic, they daven Mariv in the malls. I was in Passaic and not so long ago, and they told me to go and I looked for a mincha. There's a mincha down the road. I'm looking for a shtibel, and I'm standing in a shopping mall, saying what's going on? All of a sudden, at this man, all of the guys, all the Hasidim run from all the places, and they daven mincha in the middle of the mall. Okay, fine. So anyway, Rav Aryeh Leibovitz says that Rav Shechter says, you know something? It's a brocha levatala completely. But you should still do it. Why? Because when you're teaching brachas to people who don't know how to make brachas, then it's the halacha. You make a bracha levatala to teach a child who doesn't know, or a person who's an adult who doesn't have a background in education. You teach them a bracha by saying the bracha. You don't say to a kid, Baruch atah Hashem. Or the kid will say Hashem. You don't want the kid to say Hashem. You have to say Shem Hashem. You have to say the real name. So he says, Rav Hershel Shechter says, yes, it's a bracha levatala, and yes, you should say, because you're teaching all the people there in the crowd who might not know the bracha, at least one bracha they're not going to know how to make. And I imagine that's quite a compelling argument for Chabad as well, who, let's face it, the reason they're doing it is to teach the Jews there. There's a lot of non-Jews there as well. I don't know if this year there'll be a lot of non-Jews, and if there are, whether they'll be doing anything helpful or unhelpful. But should we be teaching the non-Jews about Hanukkah? We'll get to that in a minute. Don't forget that the Rebbe was keen on not just teaching Jews, but also spreading Sheva mitzvahs to the non-Jewish world. Now, okay, Hanukkah is not one of the Sheva mitzvahs, but awareness of Judaism, ideas of Judaism, is definitely something that was on the Rebbe's agenda. It's not something that the Shluchim really took on. It's very interesting. The Shluchim, when they go out all over the world, if you ask any of them, their focus is not really on the non-Jews. They're not in Bangkok or in wherever they are in order to teach the local non-Jews about Yiddishkeit. They're there to bring in all of the thousands and thousands of Israeli Jews who are there. So we'll talk about non-Jews in a minute. So we've had all the different reasons why to make a bracha, not to make a bracha. At the end of the day, Chabad clearly rule that you do make a bracha, but they're not alone in that analysis. There's another angle as well. What about the White House? Is there another angle here? So I brought you a Magen Avraham here, number 19. There he's talking about the story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. What's that got to do with anything? Because remember, in the story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, Bar Kamsa comes along, and tries to get the emperor to bring a korban, and he invalidates the korban. In the story there, and he wants to show the emperor the Jews won't bring your korban, to try and get the Roman emperor against the governor there against the Jews. So there, there's a debate, should they bring the korban anyway, even though it's an invalid korban? And Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkula says no. And the clear intention of the Gemara is they should have done that. That's what they should have done. It's an invalid korban. So look at number 19. It says the Magen Avraham, Mashma Ktsat Begitin, he's bringing this in a different context, obviously, but Maseh de Bar Kamsa, Shemuta la'avor alav dorais, I think he says on alav, mipnei emas hamalchus. Maybe you're allowed to break a mitzvah because of shalom malchus, ema hamalchus. Maybe if you went to the White House and you said to Biden or whoever, we're happy to light a menorah, but we're going to do without a bracha. Maybe he's going to get upset. He said, am I in the White House? My house, you don't make a bracha? I'm not sure he'd know what was going on with a bracha. I don't think knows what's going on generally, but Donald Trump for sure. Donald Trump for sure is going to spot, what, you didn't make a bracha? He's probably been to hundreds of, half his grandchildren are lighting with a bracha. So he's going to spot it. So the Magen Avraham says maybe when you're with the Melech, then you have to make the bracha because even if it maybe is a doraisa, yeah.
No,
I don't know. I'm not so sure. 10 years ago, I would have agreed with you. But now you have mercurial despots and different people, even if you think they're on your side. Today they're on your side. Tomorrow, who knows? They just like one tweet and they're off on a different path. I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to think that you were right, but I think we're living in a different kind of rule. I don't make any political comment in these shirim, especially not about American politics. You have to understand. I'm not American. I don't get a vote. I don't even get a vote in England anymore. So there you are. Let's just look at one last question, which is, okay, well, what about the non-Jews? Maybe Taka, there is a benefit in lighting Hanukkah candles to, for interfaith and to avoid anti-Semitism. It's important for the world, etc., etc. No, the Igros Moshe says, no, I'm not interested in that. Look at number 20. So he says as follows. The ha-mitzvah, shehu bishvil ha-nes, when you're doing something to be mefarsim the nes, b'yachid, it applies to an individual even though there's nobody else there. Even if you're lighting on your own, you still light Hanukkah candles. You're the only one. Even if you're in a place where there's not a single soul around, you still light with a bracha. Okay, it's much better to have other people there, but if you can't, then you light with a bracha. He quotes from the Shiltei Giborim. What about a lodger who's in a non-Jewish lodge over Hanukkah? And he says there, the Shiltei Giborim, if he's there with all the non-Jews in the inn, even though he doesn't have his own home independent of them, he has no doorway to put a Chanukah in. He has to light in the inn with all the non-Jews there. He has to light a candle. He has to light for himself. Even though his wife might be at home lighting, he's traveling, he's on business, he has to light in the non-Jewish hotel. He has to light there in the lobby or whatever it is. What about all the non-Jews who are there? What do you mean he's on his own? He's not on his own. All the non-Jews are going to gather around and they're going to sing Maltzor or whatever they're going to sing. Okay? That's not called Pirsum Hanes. No. He has to light, even though there are non-Jews around, that's nothing to do with them. He's the only one who has Pirsum there. He says of Rav Moshe, Boror, he says it seems clear to me, it's nothing to do with the non-Jews. Pirsum ha-nachrim ein a klum. Publicizing to the non-Jewish people around is not even relevant halachically. The Zeh ha-chazinim b'pashtus, so the Mechemet Moshe, he quotes from a sefer called the Chemet Moshe, from a commentary on Shulchan Aruch, and he says there's no Pirsum for non-Jews. It's not so clear though. And I brought you a reference in the bottom, just in the last couple of minutes, Rav Yair Hoffman, who has some extremely good write-ups in the Five Towns, whatever it is, magazine that they have there. He, in the yeshiva world and stuff, he writes there all sorts of sources where actually there were people who said that there is a Pirsum Hanes. There's an interesting Gemara, just to leave you thinking about this. How long can you light Hanukkah candles? How late should you be lighting? So says the Gemara, as long as there are still tarudumai in the street. Who are these tarudumai? So many of the Rishonim hold these are late merchants. This is your ancient world equivalent of a 7-Eleven kind of shop. Meaning, saying that if you forgot your firewood, there's still some merchant, hanging around at 11 o'clock at night for the latecomers to have a bit more firewood. So if they say, look, you see these people, they're non-Jewish people. And therefore, as long as they're in the street, that's relevant to the Hanukkah lighting. Others say, no, I'm not interested in them. It's the Jews who go out to the 7-Eleven to buy the thing that they've forgotten to buy. It's the Jews who are out there buying from them. They're the Jews who are going to see the Chanukiah, and therefore we're worried about the Jews, not the non-Jews. But there's an interesting debate there as well. So, bottom line, should you be making a bracha? Ask your rabbi, please, what to do. I'm not weighing in on it with any comments on it. I don't remember what I did when I was a kid. But I'm sure it doesn't really matter now anyway, because it was 50 years ago. Next week, we'll take this further. It'll still be Hanukkah, but we'll be moving a little bit more to other festivals at this time of year too. Okay, let's leave it there. Thank you so much.